Thanks for joining us today with Two Travel Dads. I'm Rob.
And I'm Chris.
And we are talking today about Halifax, Nova Scotia. It's kind of a random destination, but we went there just recently and had so much fun. So we thought it would be good to kind of share both our favorite places, some tips for planning a trip to Halifax, and also explain how to get there, because if you haven't been to Nova Scotia, it's far away and tough to get to, but it's worth it.
Well,
So,
especially when you're on the West Coast.
yeah,
It's really far.
yeah, it's true. So we're in the Seattle area, and we'll get to that, but man, it's tough to get there sometimes. Anyways, so Halifax, Nova Scotia. I would say raise your hand and show me if you know what we're talking about, but I can't see you. Do you want to tell me what your thoughts were about Halifax before we got there? Did you know anything about it?
I knew it was really far away, and I knew that it was about as far east as you can get in Canada, and that they're in Atlantic time zone. So they're not just 3 hours ahead like the rest of the East Coast. They're actually 4 hours ahead.
Yeah, so the Maritimes of Canada, so that's going to be, what is that? That's going to be Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador, Prince Edward Island, and I think New Brunswick also. I'll double check that. Are all on Atlantic time, which is 4 hours past Pacific time, or just an hour past Eastern time. So good to know as you're planning and you look at your flight times and you're like, man, why does it take me so long to get there? It's because there's actually an extra hour in there. Good times.
Yeah. And then I also know, for me, I really like food, and they've got some delicious seafood out there. So I was really excited to try some of that.
So we'll have to talk more about the seafood on our next podcast that is all about the North Shore and exploring the Bay of Fundy and all that stuff. But right now, we are going to tell you all about Halifax and some of the cool things that we discovered there, and you're probably going to want to visit by the time that we're done telling you all about everything we did in Nova Scotia. So let's start with downtown. It's kind of a cool city. The way that it's set up, there's Halifax, and then there's Burnside, and then there is Dartmouth, and they're all based around this big bay. Is it Halifax Bay or Halifax Harbor?
I need to Google that.
We can Google that. We'll put it in the show notes. But yeah, so the way that it's set up is it's this wonderful, awesome port city that has a mix of all kinds of different cultures, and then the actual downtown core has a great waterfront that in the past years, since the cruise industry has started bringing cruise ships in there, they've really updated it to both preserve some of the cool historic stuff and add some really cool cutting edge new attractions and museums. So yeah, that's what the downtown core is kind of like. It's just that mix of old history and modern tourism, which is cool. So I guess let's start down on the waterfront. Do you want to? I can talk about our first morning there.
Well, there was a bomb cyclone, so
oh my gosh, that's so
the
ridiculous.
weather was insane, and thankfully we were really prepared with many different types of jackets for the weather we'd experience in Nova Scotia, but we really had to break out the rain gear because it was a torrential downpour that day. But as we'll talk about, there's really great things to do, inside in Halifax. And I think that one of the first places that we went to was the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic, right?
Yeah, that was yeah, thank goodness that there's a lot of indoors things to do in Halifax, because when that weather turns, it's cold and wet and windy and crazy. Yeah, so the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic, really, really cool, big maritime museum. Indoors, gosh.
Before we start talking about the indoors, actually inside the Maritime Museum, I think it's fair to mention the parking situations real quick in Halifax. Like as you're getting around, they have that really cool parking system with an app.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so there's actually, Halifax has figured out how to do city parking right. There is an app, and we'll have that in the show notes so you can download it. But you can basically, you park, and every parking lot has its own little code. And if you aren't from Nova Scotia, you do have kind of like a filing fee that you have to pay to use the app. but it makes it so easy. And if you leave your parking spot early, they refund you for whatever you did pay. So it makes it so that you're not just wasting money on parking. And then if you need to create an expense report at the end of it, you actually get receipts, which is cool. Um, yeah, thanks for that reminder and bringing that up because
Well, I
it's true.
remember we had to figure out the parking situation while it was torrential rain and
Yeah.
wind and
Yeah.
everything else. So
Yeah. So, and down on the waterfront, there was, gosh, I think there was 4 or 5 different lots, all the way from the cruise terminal to north of the Maritime Museum. So there's lots and lots of options.
yeah, once you understand what the sign looks like, it's like spotting a Starbucks. You'll see them everywhere.
Oh yeah, and it's great. It makes it super easy. Anyways, though, the Maritime Museum was awesome. The thing that I thought was really cool and exceptional and special about the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic there in Halifax was the Titanic exhibit. Um, I did not know how involved with the not the sinking but the rescue and getting everything coordinated and trying to help displace people and stuff. I didn't realize how involved Halifax was with that. I just I saw Titanic and I figured it all just happened in New York, but it's all about Nova Scotia. So that was surprising to me. And their artifacts were really super cool.
Yeah, well, for me again, I think I mentioned that I like food, but I like seeing what they had some of the menus of what people ate in like first class and second class and third class, and looking at the different dishes and stuff that they had there in the original menus was really interesting. There's some stuff that I don't know that I ever want to try, but if it was put in front of me, I might.
Oh yeah, I don't even remember what it was. I took pictures
There's
of the
lots of
menus.
yeah.
There's some gross, nasty stuff.
You have to go to look.
British cuisine is kind of strange.
But for the kids, I thought it was great because right when you check in there, the staff is like, "Oh, hey, boys, do you guys want to do a scavenger hunt?" And they had a cool scavenger hunt for the kids to do, which kept them occupied throughout the whole entire museum. They just wanted to find everything that was on that scavenger hunt, and so that was pretty cool. And then I think it was on the second floor. They have a cool station set up to where you can learn Morse code.
Yeah, and they have retirees up there who have worked, in the maritime industries, teaching kids and adults
Yeah, and adults, right?
how to actually use Morse code and tap out your name, learn about messaging, all that stuff. It was that's pretty cool.
You get a little certificate once you're done.
Yeah.
But what was cool is also testing their skills. So they have all these ham radios and stuff in there, and other equipment, and you hear messages coming in, and then just watching them. You're asking, "Hey, what's that message?" And they'll just sit there and start writing it out. And so it's really impressive to see. And the kids were just in awe.
It is a skill set that I did not even realize was still around and or was fading. So yeah, pretty cool. But definitely worth checking out. I would allot at least an hour and a half for the Maritime Museum. If you are visiting without kids, you could spend all day there talking with everybody. They've got tons of volunteers and tons of really cool exhibits. So yeah, and in the summertime, they've got the outdoor, all the boats and stuff open too.
Yeah, and well, of course, we didn't do that because it was a bomb cyclone outside.
Dumping rain.
But also, that Maritime Center also had like the largest collection of boat models that I've seen.
Oh, yeah, that was
replicas
insane.
of many different historical ships. So with great fact sheets and stuff about everything.
Yeah.
Again, keeps you really entertained throughout
Yeah.
the whole time.
But moving on from there, because there's so much to do in Halifax, we also really enjoyed the Halifax Discovery Center.
That place was amazing
Yeah, it was.
and a lifesaver.
Oh my gosh, yes. Especially, can't stress enough how great it is to have wonderful indoor options when it's raining. So the Halifax Discovery Center is basically it's the children's museum there, but it's also like their hands-on science museum. So, gosh, what was your favorite part of that whole
Well,
experience?
what I really liked about this Discovery Center, unlike some others, is that then if you're a parent, you might have this situation where your kids go into some type of museum and there's all those tablet displays that they just
Oh,
want to go and
electronics
touch.
everywhere.
They don't want to actually learn anything. They just want to tippy tap, all over the screens and then jump around. But the way that they use technology inside of the Discovery Center was perfect and really incorporated the learning into that. And so both boys just had an awesome time going through that museum. And I think what Oliver and I liked the most was they had this one station set up with these different test tubes that you got to pick each one and then drop it into this reader that assessed like what minerals and material and stuff were in the water, and then it displayed it on the screen. And so Oliver just sat there just reading everything. He was so excited to go through each tube. But I think that was one thing that was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
then I know upstairs the kids always like using their imagination. And upstairs they had one of those like fake supermarkets and farm areas where you can go play with fake food and do some fake shopping. And they could just do that for hours with all the other kids that were around there.
Yeah. I think that the thing that made the Halifax Discovery Center special in comparison with other children's museums that we've gone to is their focus on teaching kids about Nova Scotia life and how the way they live as people impacts the world around them. So there was a really big focus on renewable energy and water conservation, all kinds of different things that I think a lot of other children's museums could follow that example. It was really awesome and really good, applicable examples and hands-on demonstrations for kids and adults to enjoy. Yeah. So moving on. Something else that's right there that I just have to throw out there. The Halifax Seaport Farmers Market is right next door to the Discovery Center. So it's basically it's like the Halifax version of the Pike Place Market, or the Third Street Market in Milwaukee. It's got just all kinds of indoor vendors, and it's right by the cruise terminal. So it's an easy place to, if you are popping in on a cruise, you can just pop down and get local cuisine, check out local artisan stuff, and then do whatever else. Get back on the boat, go explore further, whatever. But that's also right there. There's tons on the waterfront. Ooh, do you want to talk about the Citadel?
Oh, that was
I like the Citadel.
the Citadel was pretty cool. It was interesting to go, check out some more history in Halifax, and it was up on a hill, of course, and so it had amazing views. But we were lucky, when we got there because the weather just finally cleared up, the clouds parted, and the sun came out, which made it really nice to go experience the Citadel because it was all outdoors. Of course, there were some areas and stuff where you can go inside parts of the Citadel. And aside from the amazing views, there were really great like living history stations where people were dressed up in the local or in the in the clothing and stuff of the time in different
The
stations.
kids always love living history. Oh my gosh.
They love it, and they got to go in that. I think it was the classroom, right, and learn from the guy what the schools and stuff were like back then. And they got to draw something that they got to put up on the wall there. In the
Yeah,
classroom.
well, they were working with the chalkboards.
That's
which
right, chalkboards.
I guess it didn't really occur to me. Now that I think about it, when I've gone into Oliver's classroom at school, I haven't actually seen a chalkboard in there.
Because they don't have them.
Yeah,
They have whiteboards and smartboards.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny to actually see them working with like little tablets of chalk. It was great. It gave them a little perspective.
Well, they do it in every Red Robin.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Let's not talk about that, though. But no, so the Halifax Citadel is really neat. It's up on top of the hill. So when you go up there, you do get just sweeping views of the city, which is nifty, and it's pretty, and it's interesting. And, you know what we got to do that actually made it really cool was
change of
doing,
guard?
yeah, the changing of the guard. So they do it, I think they do it every hour. It might be every half hour. Again, check the show notes. But yeah, changing the guard was really cool. Handing off the duty, not demonstrating weapons like shooting them, but presenting them. And yeah, it just added to the fun and the history of being up at Citadel.
Yeah, the
So,
kids loved it.
yeah. Some other things to watch for in Halifax. So, the Halifax Public Gardens are also smack dab downtown, and they're really cool. It's just a big public park. It's not as big as something like Central Park, but it's a nice quiet spot in the middle of the city, and they actually do a lot of events there. When we were there, they were getting set up for some sort of light show in public. I think they called it Nocturne, maybe, and yeah, it's a big nighttime fall display. So check out the Public Gardens and the Halifax City website for different events because there's a lot going on there. What else do we do particularly in the downtown Halifax area? I kind of feel like I feel like in the downtown area, that was just about it. I mean, we didn't take time to go to the Museum of Natural History because we visit a lot of those.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't there for a long period of time, so that's kind of what we were able to go check out before we ended up traveling throughout the rest of
Yeah.
Nova Scotia. But I think again for me, there's really great food options too inside Halifax. Everything from really great seafood to really great healthy options. Vegan, vegetarian restaurants that I was able to find.
It was really nice being in a city where it wasn't difficult to find vegetarian options.
Yeah,
That
that
was wonderful.
And the other thing that I really like just about Halifax, so this is kind of a little bit different, but is how environmentally aware they are, meaning that everywhere you go, you do, I mean, you can say it, I don't need a straw, but they've already like eliminated like plastic straws
Yeah.
and they have all of their compostable straws, and are really focused and aware on conserving their natural resources and recycling and everything that we look for when we travel, unlike some of the places here in the U.S. where you get surprised that they still use styrofoam.
Yeah, no, Halifax is on it. Nova Scotia as a whole is on it. Like as we explored further and both on the north and south shore, it was the same way. Like they're conscious, which is great. But moving on, if you're visiting Halifax, there is a whole lot more to check out. I think that my favorite spot that we went was the Shuby Park Canals. So on the east side of the Halifax Harbor is this really remarkable city park. It's called Shuby Park, and it was built.
How do
Gosh,
you spell that?
Shubie, Shuby,
Shuby.
like
Got it.
Shooby Dooby, like that. Anyways, it was built. Gosh, I have to double check that, but I want to say over 200 years ago, maybe even longer than that. I will double check. And what they do, it's this long chain of canals that goes from the Halifax Harbor all the way up to the Bay of Fundy. So not the entire system is still operational. In fact, they don't run boats up and down it like they used to, but the locks are still in place. So I was able to just double check. They started building the canals in 1826 and they finished them in 1861. So, we're talking about 150 plus years of this history of these canals. So they used it to be able to get barges through from the Bay of Fundy to Halifax Harbor without having to sail all the way around the South Cape. So today it is the land of the dog owner. It was really fun. We went hiking both down to the lake and then up through the woods, and it's just dog after dog after dog.
Yeah, which made Elliot really
Oh my
happy
gosh,
because if any of you listening actually know Elliot, he is the biggest dog lover in the world. So he was in heaven,
Yeah.
getting to meet every single dog.
Yeah, so it's
Hi, what's your puppy's
what's your
name?
puppy's name? What type of puppy do you
What
have?
type is he? A boy or a girl puppy?
Yeah. So that was something that was special for the kids there, just all the dogs, and there's a huge off leash area. But as far as being one of the most picturesque places we've ever traveled to, Shuby Park in the fall, I would say it is the most beautiful fall color display I've ever seen. Everything from
It was gorgeous.
the perfectly still waters in the locks and the ponds to just every color of fall leaf falling all around us. It was amazing.
We were there as towards sunset, right? And so it was getting dark, but in that area, because those leaves are so bright and orange and red and yellow, it was actually just creating extra light as we were walking
Yeah.
through the twilight.
It was a little bit trippy how amazing it was.
It was beautiful.
But yeah, so that is definitely, I think, both of our number one pick for if you're visiting Halifax and you're like, what do I do this afternoon? Head to Shuby Park.
Instagrammable location completely.
Yeah. Not that we want to encourage you to just like go around and Instagram Halifax, but it is definitely the most Instagrammable spot ever. Love it.
Yeah, get a nice
Actually,
hot coffee and go for a walk.
But you know what? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the next place that I wanted to talk about is even more Instagrammable. Fisherman's Cove. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want me to just gush about it? Because I can talk about it for a long time, even
Is
though
that the
it's not
place
huge.
that had all of those closed businesses?
Okay, they weren't all closed.
I think there was one
So
that was open.
heads up, if you're visiting Nova Scotia after like the first week of October, everything starts to shut down for
There's
the
a
winter.
lot of seasonal businesses, we learned.
But that's okay because there are still plenty of things that are open, and it just means there's fewer people around, and you can still enjoy it just as much. But
Which is true. I mean, the buildings were amazing,
yeah,
super colorful, right on the water, and made for some really great pictures.
yeah. So it's when you are on the east side of the harbor, head south from Shuby Park towards the Devil's Head Lighthouse. You will go past this little cove slash town slash village. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's called Fisherman's Cove, and yeah, it was built again, 150 years ago on this little like finger harbor, this little finger cove, and the buildings, everyone is a different color, and they are pretty much the most picturesque perfect spot around, and there's fishing boats and crab pots and lobster, or I guess lobster pots because we're talking
Yeah.
about Nova Scotia. But it's beautiful, and there are some wonderful spots that are open. Everything from seafood restaurants to ice cream shops.
Yeah, I
There's some
think we were able to do
galleries.
the ice cream shop that was open there. Had a really amazing selection of ice cream. There was one I can't remember. Oliver got it. It was like grape and
Oh
bubble
no, that
gum
was gross.
and banana with toffee,
I don't
or
know.
something really strange like that.
He was in heaven. It was the weirdest thing ever. It's like a monster vomited all the candy it ever eaten.
But then they've got a lot of that really great retro candy that you like from when you
Yeah.
were a kid. I think we also walked out with a bag of Big League Chew,
Oh
grape
yeah, we
flavored. Yeah, that was good.
yeah.
But also in that strip, I remember because again, I really like food. There was a lunch spot there. If you hit the timing just right, that Yelp had really great reviews on the lunch offerings and stuff that they had there.
And while you're looking to see what that was, so you can include that,
Yeah,
I'm going to talk about one other spot that is pretty cool. It's also on the outskirts of Halifax, but it's on the other side of the harbor. So if you are back on the downtown Halifax side and you head south, you come to an area called Duncan's Cove, and that's where the Chebucto Head Lighthouse is. But Duncan's Cove is a big preservation area, and it is, until you've seen the Nova Scotia coastline, it's tough to really understand just how gorgeous the vegetation and rocks are together, because you have just these beautiful granite and limestone formations and just weird hills and outcroppings and all that stuff. And they are just covered with gosh, what was it? Low bush cranberry and willows. And again, if you're there when the colors are changing, it's just red and beautiful and perfect. And it's an easy little half-hour drive south out of Halifax down towards the South Shore. So that's an easy thing to add onto your trip. Did you find your restaurant you were going to talk about?
I did. Yeah, because if we go back, I really want to go there. It's called Coastal Cookhouse, and it's this cute little yellow building. It's super tiny. It's got outdoor seating, but it's a spot for lunch and stuff. And they've got a kids menu too as well. But they've got everything from like a sweet and spicy coconut curry to quesadillas, tacos, coastal burger, and
What about lobster?
I think there's something there with lobster. It's the lobster and bacon mac and cheese.
Oh, that's what you wanted.
Yeah, and the prices are always pretty decent too that I found in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
It's like $14.75 for this lobster bacon mac and cheese.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of wrap up this episode a bit.
Yeah, I'm
but
ready for lunch.
I know, right? So just kind of to recap, though, all over the Halifax area, you're going to find interesting things. Everything from history to colorful fishing stuff to just beautiful natural areas and great food everywhere. So if you get questions, send us a note. I did want to hit on one other thing real quick, and it's just how to actually get to Halifax. There are only 9 airports in the United States that fly to Halifax, and it was either 3 or 6 of them are in Florida. So it is going to be a little bit more of a journey if you are coming from any place besides Florida or Chicago. So just be prepared that you're going to have a long travel day, and you will have a stopover in another major Canadian hub before you get there. What did we fly? We flew Air Canada and Air Canada Rouge out of SeaTac. So on the way there, we had a stopover in Toronto and then directly into Halifax. And on the way back, I'm trying to think of the order of flights. I don't know why.
Well, we went from Halifax to Montreal, Montreal to Vancouver, Vancouver to Seattle.
Yeah, see, so there's a perfect example of the type of flight day that you might have when you decide to visit Nova Scotia. So it's not that bad. It sounds much worse than it is. Our flights were pretty smooth, which was great. But just be prepared for a longer day. And then the city of Halifax is about 20 minutes, half an hour south of the airport. And it's a beautiful airport. It's simple, it's small, very easy to get a rental car, very easy to get downtown. So, yeah, that's about it that I wanted to share today. Hope you enjoyed that. If you get any questions about Halifax, visiting Nova Scotia, getting to Nova Scotia, send us a message. Tell your friends to listen to our podcast, Two Travel Dads. And stay tuned. We will have another Nova Scotia podcast talking all about the Bay of Fundy coming up soon. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Two Travel Dads podcast is written by Rob and Chris Taylor and produced by Rob Taylor in Suquamish, Washington. If you would like to be a guest on the Two Travel Dads podcast or would like to sponsor it, go ahead and visit us at bit.ly/2tdwork.